I'm Awen. Today I'm showing you how to make a basic yeast bread recipe. We'll start with 2 cups of flour in the bowl. The ingredients are at the bottom of this video, so you don't have to worry about writing it all down. I've gone back to the comments section and put the ingredients in. It's flour, about 3 tablespoons of sugar, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, a tablespoon of yeast, which would be equal to 1 packet, and just stir it together. You don't have to mess the whole kitchen up to make bread. People have a misconception about bread, that it's difficult, that it's a special skill you have. That's 1.5 cups of water and 1/2 cup of milk. I warmed the milk a little bit in the microwave just because I want the bread to rise a little quicker. Bread is very friendly. It likes you. People have been making bread forever. In all of history, there is bread. And it's no mistake that Jesus used bread for the communion service when he gave instructions at the Last Supper, because every culture, every country, there is some kind of bread. This is a basic recipe and you can play with it. You can go from this to other things. I'm showing you a basic recipe to kind of dispel your fear of making bread. It takes 5.5 to 6 cups of flour to make this. And if you're making bread and you wonder how it compares, you compare the liquids. This has 2 cups of liquid. That means it makes 2 1-pound loaves of bread, which would be about 15 dinner rolls or a dozen cinnamon rolls, whatever you want to make with it. But if you wonder how another recipe, if you're looking at another recipe and you wonder how it compares to this recipe, just compare the liquids. Okay, now I'm going to put this onto my flour sack towel to knead it. I knead on a flour sack towel. You can knead on your countertop if you want to, but this way there's not any mess. You just shake the towel out over the sink or over the trash and toss it in the laundry. This is a Danish dough hook. You can use it instead of all the mixing and kneading, and I use it a lot. If you want to know how to use it or what it is and more about it, just Google it. The internet has lots to say about a Danish dough hook. I bought this one, I think, from Amazon. They're not terribly expensive, under $20, I think, and it's real sturdy. I've had it 2 or 3 years and really have used it a lot. I'm not using it today because I want to use things that you've got at home. Okay, I'm not going to put this bowl in the sink yet because I'm going to put the bread right back in it to let it rise. I don't have to wash the bowl between times. There's 1,000 ways to make bread. You can make bread without kneading it. Just stir it up. It'll be a little bit ragged. It might be crispier. You can make bread with oil instead of butter, or with no oil at all. You can just use water. And yeast is very forgiving. I'm using a tame yeast that's been commercially prepared. It's a bread making yeast. There's yeast in the air. I kneaded the bread, that batch, a couple of minutes. You don't have to watch me do that. It's in the bowl. I sprayed my bowl, sprayed the top of the bread. I'm going to set it aside and let it rise. Magically, I have some other bread that has already raised here. It's the same size batch of bread. I'm going to make this into rolls so you can see. I'm just squishing some of the yeast out of it. It'll make about 15 rolls. You can make them any size you want. Some people put 2 or 3 little balls in each into a muffin cup. I like dinner rolls. I don't butter them. I've seen a friend melt butter in her pan and roll the rolls in the butter as she goes. I don't do that. You can play with it. It's really fun. Once you've made bread, these are a little bit large. I don't usually make them quite this large, but hey, you can make bread any size, and I'll show you these after they're baked. We'll do a little time lapse. They need to rise about an hour. This dough feels a little warm. For the most part, yeast likes moisture, and it likes temperature, and it likes your body temperature. If you wonder whether your liquids are too hot, just put them on your wrist the way you would a baby bottle. And if it feels hot on your wrist, it's probably too hot for the yeast to like it. So wait a little bit, let it cool off. Because yeast is a plant. It's more part of the plant kingdom than it is part of the animal kingdom. It is alive. The dry yeast I used comes to life when it's in warm moisture. So you want to give it what it likes. It will rise even in the refrigerator. It just slows it way, way down. So you can stick your bread dough in the refrigerator overnight if you want to. Okay, this is going to make 15 rolls. They're sort of different sizes, whatever. This is more of the same size batch. This time I'm going to make 2 loaves. You could use regular loaf pans if you wanted to. I happen to like this French bread pan. Just give your bread a little length. Make it smooth. And it'll rise and turn into loaves that are fun. We'll see them later after they're baked. Okay, I have another batch mixed up that's going to be cinnamon rolls. Now it's a bigger batch. It's actually a batch and a half. It's 3 cups of liquid. And I'm going to put it in this. I wanted to show you, people have made bread every way there is to make bread, with a fireplace, with an iron pot like this. This is called a Camp Dutch oven. You can tell it's a Camp Dutch oven because it has feet. A regular Dutch oven that you just cook on the stovetop or in the oven doesn't have feet. So that's how you can tell a Camp Dutch oven. Okay, it gets this caramel mixture, which is 2/3 of a cup of milk, 1 stick of butter, and 1 pound of dark brown sugar. What I'm going to do is cook the rolls with charcoal, and then we'll flip it over and let the caramel show up. And I've got a very generous cup of pecans. I happen to like pecans. They're my favorite nut. So I use a lot of pecans. If you eat at my house, you're going to eat pecans. If you don't want pecans, don't put them in there. Okay, then we'll roll this dough out. And ordinarily I would just spray the countertop and roll right on the countertop because I don't want to fight the towel. But I'm fighting a towel today. Let me set this off out of my way. We are in my tiny house kitchen, and it is tiny. Okay, that's not going to work. Let's just move it over to the countertop and roll it there. A little bit of oil to keep it from sticking. and then roll it out. This is going to make 2 dozen cinnamon rolls, and I'm using the 3-cup batch because my pot is so large. If you had a 8 or a 10-inch Dutch oven, you would not want, you would just use the standard recipe with 2 cups of liquid. You wouldn't use all this dough. But because my pot is so large, I have to use more dough. Okay, this is about a cup of sugar and a tablespoon of cinnamon. And I'm going to spread that out. I'm mixing it as I spread. I don't butter my dough, some people do. I happen to think that the butter just melts and takes the sugar with it as it runs out of the bread. But some people really like butter in the middle of their cinnamon rolls, and that's okay. Sometimes you can use like a brown sugar for the middle, whatever you like. Okay, pretty easy. I like a bench scraper to cut with. Cut it in half, cut each half in half, then cut it again. Each one of these is going to make 3 rolls, and then they go into the pot. And they have to rise after they get in there. I cook with charcoal above and below. You can use just the coals if you've got a fire that has burned down, a campfire that's burned down, and you've got some nice coals. You can shovel some coals under it and some over it. The rule is to bake. It's called a Dutch oven because it bakes. And the rule is that you put twice as much heat on top as you have on the bottom. You don't want the bottom to burn before the whole thing bakes. So you want to have your heat coming more from the top than from the bottom. You want some of your heat from the bottom. On this, I'm going to put probably 9 pieces of charcoal underneath and 18 above, and I'll let it cook about a half an hour. I'm stuffing my pot full of rolls. Aren't they pretty? They look so yummy already, and they'll be really yummy looking when they rise. We just squeeze them together and let them rise. We'll give it about an hour to rise, and then we'll be back. I'm putting this sugar that's all over the cabinet on top because you just can't have too much sugar. If you're going to eat a cinnamon roll, you're going to get loaded with sugar anyway, so you might as well go for it. Okay, we'll be back in an hour and see how this bakes up. Here the bread is ready to go in the oven. It's been sitting here raising for about an hour, and I'm going to bake all of it, including the stuff in the iron pot, and then I'll show it to you when I get done. Here's the Camp Dutch oven cooking. The hardest thing is to leave it alone and not touch it. You can't lift the lid or peek or anything. I have it on my grill. It's on the porch. We have a kind of a deck, and this grill is 1 or 2 steps down. Our house is on a hillside, so we step down the hill. It's winter and it's cold, and we'll see. The bread is baked and brown, and it really looks beautiful. I wish you could smell it.